Ghosties, I have 3 super spooky stories today, but I apologize in advance. I'm a little bit sick. Here is all of my social media. Me and Ollie, we went to this really spooky haunted house. It was so scary, like so scary. There will be a vlog of that coming next Tuesday, so stay tuned and keep an eye out for that. Next Friday's stories will be a very special collab with a very special surprise guest, and you guys will not want to miss those stories. There are 14 more days until Halloween. I am so excited. And if you want to subscribe to join my cemetery of ghosts, it would mean so much to me. Let's hop right into these stories now. This first story is titled The Bus Stop. This one comes from Reddit user successful-wafer-924. Thank you so much for letting me read your story. When I was still in school, I would normally take the bus, most of the time until I got my license. The bus stop wasn't far from my house at all. It was just a few blocks. There were 2 separate paths that you could take to get there from my house. One was just walking along the road and taking a right, walking down some more road, and then you would be there. The second path was a straight shot to the stop, but it was through a patch of very thick forest. The first stop was maybe like a 15-minute walk, while the second path through the forest was about 10 minutes. I was running late one day and decided to take the path through the forest. It was the start of winter, so it was pitch black outside at the time I had to wake up for high school. I was either a freshman or a sophomore at the time. I started on the path and kept my face pointed forward despite the eagerness to look over my shoulder at every little snap and crack. But just as I saw the bus stop through the trees, I heard a very loud snap, like a tree had just been ripped apart. It was so loud that it echoed in the fields surrounding the area. I stormed forward, terrified out of my mind. Thankfully, there was another kid there. I think his name was John or Jay. We were in the same grade, so I debated bringing up the loud crack, but I didn't want to sound crazy if he somehow didn't hear it. But he beat me to it and said, "Dude, what the hell was that? Did you hear that?" Mind you, it was still pitch black out and we could barely see each other standing like 2 feet apart. I didn't know him very well since he was newer to our school. I didn't really want to bring much attention to it, thinking if it was something supernatural, we should just ignore it. So I simply nodded, and he picked up on my unwillingness to talk about it, and he also just nodded. I was standing way closer than I normally would, since I'm incredibly awkward, so I would just stand on the opposite side as everyone else. But this was a special exception, so I stood just a couple feet away, seeking just a semblance of comfort from what had just occurred. He went on his phone, and so did I, but I felt like something was watching me, not behind me, but in front of me. I just moved my eyes to look, keeping my head down, and saw a figure dash into view about 13 feet away. It looked like a deer, which is very common where I'm from, so I just ignored it until I felt so uneasy that I had to take another glance. It stood up. That's fucking creepy. I looked over to the other kid, hoping that he had also been seeing that, but he was glued to his phone. I looked back, and at the same time, whatever the hell it was looked back at me. It was still dark as night out, so I couldn't make out any facial features, just a shadow. It looked back and then got back down on all fours and ran so incredibly quick that it was just a blur. It ran back into the field that was behind it, and not a minute later, the bus pulled up. I walked onto the bus, and the kid sat behind me, and before he sat down, said, "That was crazy." It was the most serious I had ever heard him, so I knew he at least caught a glimpse of whatever that thing was. Does anyone know what it could have been? It still haunts me to this day. That is so freaky. That is definitely a skinwalker. Oh my god. And the fact that someone else saw it with you, at least you're safe. This second story is titled Something's Haunting My Husband. This person decided to stay anonymous, but they will be watching this video and they really want any advice you guys have after hearing this story. So please comment down below. Anything helps. So I don't have every detail because my husband is scared to talk about it. The more he shares, the more terrified he becomes. But I'll start with what I personally experienced. When we first moved into our home 3 years ago, the very first night was unsettling. We heard footsteps, and in the morning our fridge door would be wide open, even though we knew we had closed it. The house never felt truly quiet. There were always sounds, either in another room or sometimes right next to us. My experiences have been strange, but not as extreme as his. While working in the master bathroom, I once heard my mom's voice calling me by my name from the other side of the door, saying she was there. Another time I felt something touch my leg. It turned ice cold in that one spot, even under blankets. This past weekend when I was home alone, the house became freezing cold, even though the AC was set to 76. And just this morning as I was getting ready for work, I heard my husband's voice call "babe" in my head, but it wasn't my own thoughts, in the exact same tone he had used the night before. That's so weird. Like the whole in your head thing too, that's so weird. My husband's experiences are much darker. He's been scratched twice, like his sides, and wakes up to them, places our cats can't reach. He often comes home to find the kitchen cabinet doors wide open, even the ones our cats couldn't reach or open because of the sticky paint. He hears voices, sometimes multiple at once, ranging from old childhood friends to military buddies to even mine. He's also heard loud thumps or things being thrown, but when he checks, nothing is out of place. It seems to target him more than me. Since things escalated, his depression and mood swings have worsened. He says it even messed with his truck. Things that worked perfectly before suddenly stopping. Our TVs still turn on by themselves, sometimes right after we've shut them off and left the room. He's also found books knocked off shelves, and the dogs act strangely, refusing to go into the front room or guest room, and sticking to the family room if left alone. I feel uneasy whenever I'm in the guest room by myself, and the front room often gets unnaturally cold very quickly. I truly believe this may be connected to the woman who lived here before us. She died in this house, but I also feel like something else is here. We need help. Whatever this is, it feels like it's feeding on him, draining him, and affecting his mental health. We just want to know how to get rid of it. He wants to move, but I don't think that will get rid of it. I haven't told him, but I think it's something attached to him, not the house. That is so freaky. I say either definitely get the house cleansed, or he might be right, maybe move, or get him cleansed. Definitely get him and the house cleansed for sure. See if a priest would do that. But if anyone else has any suggestions, they will be commenting them down below. And let's get on to the third story. This third story is titled, "The House That We Used to Live In Was Inhabited by the Spirit of a Drug Dealer." This one comes from Reddit user Silver and Bold 1. A couple of years ago, my fiance, now wife, and I had moved into a rental house down here in Louisiana. It was a good little starter house for the most part. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and an additional room that we had turned into a media room. I'm really shitty at build-up, so don't expect any of that for this story. We lived in the house for a few weeks before we started experiencing some bizarre things, as seems to be the standard for stories like this. It started off small. I don't know why ghosts dip their toes in the water like that, but that's how it happened. Doors were opening and closing by themselves, sometimes right in front of our faces. Figured initially that there was a rational explanation for some of this, and I'm sure for some of it there was. At one point, my fiance and I were in the shower together, and there was a knock on the bathroom door. We both heard it. We freaked out. She wanted me to go and see what it was, but I was, well, let's just say I was showering with my fiance. I had some things going on that I didn't feel comfortable confronting an intruder with. In the safety of daylight, I inspected the house for possible entries. I knew there were some things going on that just weren't from a human influence, but I'm one of those people that needs to cover their bases. There really wasn't any way anyone could have gotten in. I guess it wouldn't be impossible, but a bit unlikely. If a human being managed to, say, pick the lock of our door, then I don't see what the reason behind knocking on the bathroom door would be. The thing that kind of turned the situation from a 3 to a 10 was when her and I woke up early one morning. It was around 6 a.m. and we were taken out of a quiet sleep by the loud screams of a man from the hallway. That is so frightening, oh my god. We both jolted awake. I had initially thought that she may have woken up because I had gotten out of bed, but she asked who was screaming. And that was good enough for me to rationalize that we heard the same thing. This was the first time that this occurred, but it wasn't the last. It was always around the same time, the same scream, and the same reaction from both of us. There were a couple of times when we came home and heard arguing from our media room. We would usually hear it up until we got to the kitchen before it stopped. My wife had a reoccurring dream that she was being chased through the house by someone with a blunt object, but in her dream, the house was in a desolate state and not what we had made the house look like ourselves. My wife had a strong Irish Catholic background, so her mom had insisted on calling a priest to cleanse the house. That worked for like a week. At one point, I was sleeping and had my arm around my wife. I felt a hand on my back and heard breathing coming from behind me. That's when I decided I was okay with breaking our lease and moving somewhere else. Security deposit be damned. My wife didn't want to stay in the house, so she stayed with her sister. My brother-in-law assisted with the moving and pack process. When we were working on boxing and moving things, we had found out from a neighbor that the house was owned by a drug dealer and it used to be a trap house. The neighborhood that we lived in was decent, but it had made to be a total 180 transformation from what it used to be. The drug dealer that lived in the house at one point was a suspect in the disappearance and murder of 2 addicts, whose remains were eventually found. Cause of death was stabbing and blunt force trauma. That's insane. He had died of a heart attack in the house after consumption of methamphetamines, which took his life in the early morning hours. The landlord actually gave me my deposit back. We moved and our new house is completely drug dealer spirit free. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it, don't believe it, doubt it, question it. I just wanted to share it. The way everything connected back to each other is like a movie and so insane. I love it when things connect back. Waking up in the early morning and hearing screaming and that's when he died and everything. It's creepy. Like this video, comment down below, and please subscribe if you want the chance to win a boo basket when I hit 1,000 subs. We have already started getting the stuff for the boo baskets, and we are only 300 subs away now, so definitely subscribe. And you have to be active, so you have to comment and stuff if you want the chance to win one. I have my own Reddit if you guys have your own scary stories, along with all of my social media and a very cool active Discord community. They are always linked down below in my description. Stay spooky, guys. I will see you next week with my surprise guest.